What I'll say to that too is, yeah, very high, left brain, right? Analytical, logical, structural. The thing though is people think memory is left brain. It's not. It's a harmony of left and right. So the typical way that people learn, which is flawed and laborious, is cramming, right? It's left
Mm,
brain, it's reading it over and over and over,
yeah.
taking notes, right? Using your right brain, the creative, intuitive, imaginative side, having a harmony with that because memory techniques utilize imagination. I'm at 30, let's see, what am I, 37 years old? And I'm more creative, imaginative than I probably was when I was 12, 13 years old.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.
Hi guys, welcome back to Neff Inspiration, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stephan Neff. Today's another fantastic day because I've got John Graham with me. John is an amazing man. He is a 3 times USA memory champion, and he has put time aside to understand that black box up there between our ears, our brain, because we take it for granted. Yet we know, I mean, old figures said we only use 10% of it, and that's pretty true. Most of us are basically like chimpanzees in front of a keyboard and say, what was that? What was that? Alcohol. Ooh, I like it. Ooh, that's not nice. What's that? Anxiety. Don't want to know it. No, let's escape. So that's the reality for most of us. Yet some of us are deep diving into this mess up there. And John is miles ahead of many of us because not only has he uncovered ways how to use his memory in a highly sufficient and efficient way, but he has also uncovered reasons for his own demons, anxiety and panic attacks, all those horrible adrenaline-driven states. And he is nowadays a man who is offering help to others and who is going out there to show ways how we can all improve. I can't wait to talk to John Graham. Welcome to my show.
Stefan, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to let her rip and give the
Uh,
truth for people. Yeah.
I don't know where to start, the anxiety or the memory. Since we all are, since many of us are walking around and thinking, who was that person? Where did I leave my keys? Ah, so memory problems appear to be actually quite prevalent out there. How did it all manifest that you actually came to take an interest in memory and actually started peeling back the layers until you figured out the most efficient ways how to memorize things?
Yeah. So a lot of people assume I must be gifted, born with a good memory, right? Natural photographic memory. And that's completely false. I was born a normal person, just like you. And at 27 years old, I came across a book called Moonwalking with Einstein. The book called my soul because the subtitle is The Art and Science of Remembering Everything. I was like, whoa, I got to read this book. And it's about people, ordinary people, who learn mental techniques and strategies using imagination, connection, visualization, places that you know, and just making simple stories that stick and knowing where to put that so you can find it and recall it. And that's all it is. It's just technique and fun. And so I was like, I got to try this. I learned how to memorize a deck of cards, like a shuffle deck, all 52 cards in order in the first week. I was a believer, and I just kept practicing these techniques. And it took me to competing all over the world. The first thing I did was I competed 4 months later after reading the book in China at the World Memory Championships, and completely bombed. By the way, completely bombed. My goal was to be a grandmaster of memory and
In
reach
four
certain feats.
months. In 4 months.
And yeah, 4 to 6 months, and I was just a complete newbie. I didn't know what I was doing, and yeah,
Oh, and
that's a real.
congratulations for trying. Okay, that is you were a 99.999% further ahead than everyone who didn't try. So here you go. Wow. Okay, but just that fast onset of this skill, one has to wonder, whilst you're playing down your innate abilities, do you know your IQ, or what is your profession, or what was your profession at age 27? Or maybe that is a
I was a
giveaway.
I was a very book smart kid in high school. I got pretty much all A's and in school. I think my IQ is 138,
Hmm.
so fairly high.
Yeah.
So
there's
very left.
you're working from a bit of a higher level of normalcy. That's fair to say, isn't it?
What I'll say to that too is, yeah, very high left brain, right? Analytical, logical, structural. The thing though is people think memory is left brain. It's not. It's a harmony of left and right. So the typical way that people learn, which is flawed and laborious, is cramming, right? It's left brain, it's reading it over and over and over, taking notes, right? Using your right brain, the creative, intuitive, imaginative side, having a harmony with that, because memory techniques utilize imagination. I'm at 30, let's see, what am I, 37 years old? And I'm more creative, imaginative than I probably was when I was 12, 13 years old. Probably I'm use my imagination as much as like 7-year-old kids. That's what helps me with my memory. So bringing that back into balance was the key for me.
Wow. Okay. Now that makes actually a lot of sense now you to describe it in these kind of abstract terms. Okay. And of course, with balance, with you achieving this balance, no surprise that sooner or later you also realized that that is also applicable to those waves of neurochemicals that were washing over you, all the anxiety, the panic attacks. If we were to go back in time, when was sort of the first time that you remember really being anxious? And with hindsight, were you able to actually put a root cause to those many years of feeling driven by adrenaline in all the wrong ways?
Yeah, great question. I often think back to when I was 13 years old. I was in 8th grade. As the first time I think it anchored in. I was going through a school change, seeing all new kids at a middle school, and I also had a chest surgery. So I had corrected like a chest bowl. I have like an indent in my chest, and I was correcting that. So highly insecure kid going to a new school, and I can't carry my books to class. I can only carry 5 pounds to recover from the surgery. So it was very traumatic for me. And that was the first time I remember just constantly being stuck in my head, like thinking, like looking at my watch at all times. When's class going to end? When can I escape? When can I go home? Is my mom going to get home okay? Is she going to die in a car crash? Like all these kinds of crazy thoughts would circle me and swarm me. And that's the first time I remember that. That's starting. And I think, to be honest, I didn't know it was anxiety until probably 2018, 19, just completely delusional to it. It was normal. It was normal.
Well,
right?
that's it, isn't it? Isn't it? You're living in this world of pain, but for you it's normal. For you, that is what you know, and that is the same thing for so many adverse childhood experiences, for so many children who go through sometimes horrendous times. For them, that's normal. And it's only later on when there is an increased recognition that maybe with exposure to other families, they realize, hang on, mummy doesn't get beaten the shit out of her every day. What's so different in that family? When you suddenly get an appreciation that maybe things were not as good as you maybe thought. When you think back about your family life, was there stability? Or was
Yeah.
that, yeah?
Yeah. This is the crazy thing is, this is why I never resonated with the word trauma at first. I thought trauma's for people who get abused. I never got abused. I had a perfectly loving, stable family. Right? They had their flaws. We all have our flaws, but there was no abuse. There was no emotion. It was all love. Right? But what I can pinpoint to And the reason we can develop these insecurities and these things is because even if imagine you're loved in your life and wrapped in love, and the moment you go out into the world, you don't have that blanket of security. And you seek that all the time. You seek approval. Why did I want to win 3 national memory championships? Why did I want to win awards and accolades? Because it's sort of an addiction. Right? It's another form of addiction. Addicted to productivity, addicted to porn, addicted to whatever. They're all addictions. They're to pacify a feeling inside of you that's uncomfortable.
Oh, I love it. I love it because I recognize myself so much in you, in this kind of attitude, because I've been chasing external validation as long as I can remember, not knowing that I was. And maybe that is because I've got so many letters behind my name and so many, I want to do at least a publication every 6 months and things like that. So that was how I was training, running, and it was just crazy. I never stopped to smell the roses. I never stopped to celebrate a win. It was always the next thing.
Yeah.
Same for you too.
Yeah, the next coffee. Once I get my coffee, then I have to be productive. Once I get that thing done, then I got to get this thing done. Then I got to make this amount of money. Then I win this war. It's never ending. And I woke up one day and I was like, is this it? Like, we're so in a race, not in a rat race of money and working a job. No, step back. You're in a race to get the next thing that you want or to avoid the next thing you don't want. And when you break free of that, you're like, oh my gosh, why? Why do I need the things that I want and desire? Why am I avoiding the things I don't want? Why? Why am I blocked inside? And those are the questions that kind of freed me. It's like, why do I need this to be okay on the inside? Right? Because everything external for me, these trophies don't give you endless bliss and happiness. Because the moment I won my 3rd one, I wanted a 4th one, right? It just never ends. If I'm speaking truthfully and honestly, right? I'm joyful for that day, and then I go to bed and I'm like already thinking about the next one.
Exactly.
It's never ending. So why am I not okay on the inside? And what do I do about that? That was the real question that took me down my path.
Having said that, at the moment you were talking about actually a maybe skewed coping mechanism that served you very well in society. Many of us have, I mean, I was a workaholic long before I became an alcoholic, absolutely. But cross addiction comes. So for your brain that is racing, that is constantly giving you crap, you want to figure out ways how to calm that down. Now, typically alcohol is pretty cool there, or other drugs. Did that become at some stage part of your life?
Yeah, I mean, I was training for the 2019 World Championships, and I would wake up excited to train, and I couldn't because I had severe brain fog. And so those are the moments where you're like, I have to calm myself down. I have to try these things. So you try the supplements, you try the meditations, you try everything to calm that down, right? And those things are helpful to bring yourself to a level, but it doesn't take care of the root of it. The root still is inflamed, right? And so a lot of people think you attack anxiety through the mind, right? There's mental techniques, there's meditations, there's cognitive therapies where you ask questions, right? There's supplements for the brain. You can't solve these issues with the mind. The mind is the issue. The mind is the control, right? The issue is below that. It's emotional. Anxiety, panic attacks, depression is an emotional issue. Addiction is an emotional issue. But we try to solve it up here, right? There's symptoms up here, right? And so I only got so far with calming the mind and using these mental strategies, right? And then it would still come back in full force, these feelings and these sensations and these brain fogs and these heart palpitations and the feeling of dread and overwhelm, like literally paralyzing and shutting down, completely drained at 11 a.m. because like I was mentally exhausted. So I had to go beyond the calming strategies and go deeper and figure out, why was I not calm in the first place? Why do I need to be calm, right? And what you discover is that you're not okay on the inside. You have massive amounts of suppressed emotions, trapped energy in your body from everything of your past that's trying to come up to be seen, right? So the real issue is all of this suppressed emotion, because everything you've ever pushed away in your life, every moment experience that was uncomfortable, that you could not fully handle and process, and we all do this, because some things suck, heartbreaks, betrayals, whatever, abuse, mental, emotional, these things are very painful. And so we push them away. We don't fully experience them. And when that happens, it stays stored in our nervous system, in our cells, in our body. These emotions stay with us forever until we see them and release them. So I realized that when I was 30 some years old and I'm trying to do work or trying to practice my memory, and I'm looking at my to-do list and I can't function because I'm so overwhelmed with what I have to do and I'm so dreading the day, it wasn't because of my to-do list. It had nothing to do with the to-do list. The to-do list was poking all of the crap that I had inside of me that wanted to come out, the trapped emotions, right? So if you have anxiety and you try to calm your mind or you try to go for a walk to calm down, you're bypassing that energy. It's coming up and it's so uncomfortable. You go, no, I need to watch something. I need to do a meditation, and you push it down. So when I learned the only way to release this stuff is to experience it so then it can release for good, I started to face it. And that's what led me on the path I'm on today.
Well, basically to feel the emotion and then to let it go.
Feel the sensation fully. Exactly. That's the key, is stay out of your mind. Like, don't worry about your mind, but yeah, feel that uncomfortable feeling fully. It might take 10 seconds. It might take a day. I don't know, right? We got some nasty stuff in there, but feel it fully. And that's the key. Once you feel it fully, it releases and it's gone forever. That piece of you, that part of you is integrated. It's gone, right? Now we have to rest and process it, right? But that was the key, is just doing that. Anytime something arose in my day, and even to this day, right now, whatever I'm feeling right now, I allow it in. The full spectrum, the full energy.
My goodness. Wow. And absolutely, I'm with you, and I'm actually at the same level of acceptance with regards to my body, my feelings now. But there's certainly there was a lot of work involved in getting to this point now. I'm intrigued about your to-do lists. There was a time in my past when, I still do to-do lists. So they work really well for me. But in the past, I put so much onto a to-do list that even Superman on steroids would not be able to even achieve a fraction of what I put there. And therefore, at the end of the day, I could look at my to-do list, and one of my key core beliefs was proven: I'm a failure. Are you a failure? Is there a person in there who's telling you that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a voice in the head that says stuff like that. Not as much anymore. Yeah, certainly when I was having anxiety, you didn't get as much done as you should, like you're never going to get there, all this stuff. Absolutely. Right. Yeah. It's like our mind is creating a to-do list to be okay. We're trying to bend reality and manipulate reality so that we're okay on the inside. Because if you check all those boxes on your to-do list, you feel amazing, right? But if you don't, if you miss one thing, you feel like shit, right? Because you are trying to create reality. Yeah. You are not. When I had anxiety, I realized I was not trusting the flow of life. I was trying to create the flow of life. With all my preferences, all my to-do list, I thought I could manifest and bend reality and do what I wanted and make this amount of money and do this amount of thing. But you're so that control conditioning. Yeah. It's so rigid and so tight. It needs the world to be the way you want it to be, or else it's not okay. And that's just, when I realized that, it's just so scary how much control we want to put on our life for it to be okay. So really, it's releasing that control and flowing with reality, because reality wins 100% of the time. you're never going to beat reality.
Beautifully said. Your best plans turn to custard as soon as reality hits you. You're
Yeah.
so true. Okay. But I mean, there is a lot of acceptance necessary to do that. And also, I mean, there are times when you need to compartmentalize, and it's okay to feel a feeling. But there might be times in my life as an anesthetist, there might be emergencies. Sorry, fear. Sorry, thank you. Sadness. Sorry, right now, not a good time. So there needs to be an ability of us to function in a complex world in which we are living. You can't say, "Oh, time out. It's I know I'm in the championships here, but right now it's not a good time. I need to actually feel those emotions." No, no. So where is the line between healthy compartmentalization and actually feeling, making room for your emotions to come out and to be experienced, to be felt, to be accepted? You don't love every emotion. You don't love sadness. You don't love fear, guilt, shame, all the negative emotions, but they still need to be felt. So how do we create those opportunities to feel them?
Yeah, I'll just share my personal take on this because I think it's obviously a journey, right? When you're going through this and starting to accept your feelings and allow them to happen as uncomfortable as they are, yes, you have to develop an intimacy with them, meaning like you don't feel fully safe in some of them. Some of them are very visceral and very strong, or you feel paralyzed, right? They're very strong. And so you step in, it's like dipping your toe in a pool. You get your leg in, right? And then, ooh, man, it's too cold. I got to get out, right? So you develop a tolerance to it, and you only do that by practicing it and doing it, right? So the more intimate you get with those feelings, and the more you allow and the more you trust, like you're immersed in them, you submerge in them and just allow them. You develop a comfort to them. And I would actually, I don't know if it's disagreeing with you at all, but I think once you go through that compartmentalization stage, or I wouldn't even call it compartmentalization. I would call it getting out of the pool and then warming up and going back in the cold pool again, right? Building up your tolerance.
Hmm.
Because as you develop intimacy and safety and you're okay plunging, diving into the pool, the frigid cold pool, so to speak, of the uncomfortable emotions, right? I think you get to a place where you're fully allowing it in, as many times as you can. Because I'll share this experience. I was just in China. I was just on a show called Superbrain. 400 million people watch this show, which
Bit of pressure
is
there, yeah.
insane. Yeah, you can imagine the adrenaline I felt leading up to that, because it's days of preparation, rehearsal, training. So I'm exhausted emotionally, mentally to go on. Before I go on, like it's just a lot. And now I have to memorize 100 random items. They put each item in a different locker. So I memorize each locker number that each item is in. And then each locker number has a 4-digit code to it that locks. So I have to memorize all of that in front of 400 million people. No pressure, right? So while I'm on stage, this is like 3/4 of the way through this. I was looking at the screen of the numbers, and all of a sudden the numbers go blurry. And I feel like, oh shit, I'm about to drop to the floor and faint, because my body had a lot of adrenaline in it leading up to that, right? And I didn't eat a lot of food before I went on because I wanted to stay sharp, right? All these things I needed. I was hypoglycemic. I was low blood sugar, like salty. I needed my caps were tightening up. My arches of my feet were tightening up because I was cramping. I did low electrolytes. So anyway, I share this because in the past, when I was having panic attacks, I would have ran off stage because I couldn't handle that voltage, right? But because I was so intimate with any emotion, allowing it in, I was like, okay. I took off my jacket and I kept going. And I was fully aware of these sensations in my body. I was fully aware of the faintness, the fogginess, but I kept going. And I said, I just have to remain grounded and do the best that I can. And I kept going. And I memorized all 100 just fine. And I got to the end just fine. But I wouldn't have gotten there. Like you can't get to that point in one day. You have to dip your toe, so I totally appreciate, yes, the truth is some of the things are so uncomfortable you can't handle them right away. That's okay. If you need to scroll on your phone to calm or like distract yourself for a moment, but try as much as you can to get back into that feeling and allow it to do whatever it wants to do so that it can release.
Beautiful, beautifully said. And thank you for your honesty, for crying out loud. I've just put myself into that situation, and my own adrenaline was just spiking. Just imagining that. My goodness. Okay, but I mean that is such a valuable point you have made. We are not training ourselves in the same way as we would go to the gym. No one would go to the gym once and say, okay, brilliant, I'm healthy now. That's it. No, you need to work on yourself, because the healing, well, trauma comes in layers. Healing comes in layers, but also learning new skills come in layers, come in repetition, comes in a multitude of strengthening ways, so that whatever comes out at the end is really solid. And that's what you have been doing. So living your life intentionally and experiencing the emotions, warts and all. And I think that is really beautiful. And I mean, we know that from examples where this is used very successfully. Take special forces soldiers. The training that they are going through is brutal, and it's fear inoculation. So they go stepwise until they do feats where you think, what the hell? And yet their fear, because they've gone through so much in their training, once they hit the battlefield, yeah, okay, oh, that was not such a bad day. And it's that kind of growth that many of us shy away because it's painful. It's painful on the inside. But you have started this fear inoculation, and by exposing yourself to yourself, I guess, of all the demons, I mean, there's some very nasty ones in my head, but we actually let them run riot for a little, and just become aware of them and accept that they're part of us.
They are, yeah. Well, since you're talking about that, the Army training, military training, I actually incorporated what I call chaos training into my memory regiment. So this is a secret of winning those championships, those 3 championships, right? When I win, I have to go on stage and perform. I have to memorize in front of people on TV, right? Or, televised, right? And so it's tough. It's stressful. So I train for that. I literally, when I'm training, most people, they put most memory athletes, as we call them, put earmuffs on their ears. They block the noise. They get comfortable. They train in the quiet, and they're like, oh, that's nice and all. But I do the opposite. I will put a podcast full blast on my ears, one that I want to listen to, those that I'm interested in. I will drop down, do 20 push-ups as fast as I can, holding my breath. And then I will jump up on the table, or not on the table, on my seat, and press start and start memorizing. So my heart's racing. I'm catching my breath. There's a loud voice in my ear, and I'm thinking, why are you doing this? Give up, just press pause, go do something else, go play with your daughters. This is annoying. I don't like this. This is uncomfortable. And I force myself to memorize, because if I can train in that uncomfortable situation, the championship will be easier. And that's the logic behind that.
Exactly. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Oh, thank you very much for actually giving away a little secret here. But wow. But that is the way that we actually grow. And that's exactly, I mean, I've been instructor for courses for doctors where we teach emergency procedures to doctors. And that's exactly what we do there. We put the adrenaline into them. We're absolutely, there will be chaos, there will be screaming, there will be, you know, it's fun for us. It's hell for them.
Yeah.
But it is, these are then the times when you can make honest mistakes. And sometimes you win and sometimes you learn, and you learn from your mistakes. So with you actually exposing yourself to the reality of life, that is beautiful. So if we were to combine that now, I mean, not everyone is going for the USA Championships or for major television shows, but we all are going for to show up successfully in our lives. So the circumstances will change, but the principles will remain the same. And I think that is what all your teaching is all about. That is where you go out there, because the emotions, however, whatever kaleidoscope of emotions there are, feelings, they are still more or less the same throughout every single human being. There are nuances here and there, but we can learn how to feel. But that's really, really hard. I mean, how do you start? Where do you start when it comes to that?
Yeah. Well, the first problem people have is they get it. Okay, I can feel the feelings, but they jump into their head and they say, am I doing this right? What about this nasty thought? What do I do about the thoughts? Everyone's like, what do I do about the thoughts?
Yeah.
Right? Because if we're honest, if you have anxiety or any type of, most of us do this. We push uncomfortable thoughts away or we argue with them. If you really dissect a moment, think of the last moment you were overwhelmed or anxious, right? In that moment, it's so uncomfortable inside that we start, oh, I can't be thinking about that. I got to get busy. I got to be productive. Like you don't have time for it. Or you battle it. No, I'm grateful. Like the whole thing, be grateful, change your thoughts. Like that's BS too, because you are denying and bypassing what's actually happening. So,
oh, nice. Nice.
What do you do?
You're using a different emotion to just wash over that emotion, so to speak.
Yeah. And so if you are feeling anxiety, if you try to be grateful, you are manipulating internally to try to push away something that's happening, right? So you're bypassing. And there's nothing wrong with being grateful and having a gratitude journal, right? But if you're doing it to push away an uncomfortable feeling, you're bypassing that energy. And again, just like when it comes up, and you're pushing it down to try to do something else. It's the same thing as drinking a drink of alcohol. Take off the edge, right? Anything you do to avoid that feeling is bypassing. And so the first issue people come across is the mind, right? What do I do about the mind? And the simple answer, this is not easy. It takes practice, right? Instead of pushing away thoughts or trying to force certain thoughts to come in, or instead of ignoring them, we let go, we release control of that mind. So that means that those uncomfortable thoughts or the thoughts you don't want are going to swarm around. It's like going to a barbecue in the middle of summer and there's bees or wasps all over the place, right? You sit down with your plate with all your buddies, you sit down and there's wasps swarming around, right? The wasps are your thoughts. And what do most people do? They like freak out and they start swatting at them or running away, like avoiding them. They're so uncomfortable with it, right? But if you just sit there and let the bees do whatever they want to do, they will leave. They will leave. They won't hurt you. Maybe one will sting you. Okay. You have no control over that. So it's like your thoughts. I want you just like let them go, release control of trying to manipulate, push them away, and then bring your attention gently back to your body, to that uncomfortable feeling, and relax. So that's the process. It's more difficult initially if you've been conditioned to push them away, but that's the general idea.
Which is beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. But I mean, I want to go one moment back to those people out there who now think, oh wow, okay, great, I need to feel, think, etc. let's go back to the root causes of our anxiety, because you have earlier alluded to that, and it has become natural for you, but I want to spell it out. I can create in anyone out there anxiety. Very easy for me to do. I just tell you, don't drink water. So your body is in a state of dehydration and it thinks, oh my God, I will die. I want you to eat a lot of crap so that your blood sugar goes high and low and high and low. And again, your body will feel, okay, here's a threat to my life. I don't want you to sleep proper. I want you to watch telly till 2 o'clock in the morning and then have 2 beers. Okay, all that. Your sleep is rotten. Can you imagine that with these 3 things alone, your next day will not be so great? I assure you that. So by us putting simple, healthy routines in place, create habits that actually reduce the likelihood of negative emotions, especially anxiety, by us actually giving the body what it needs, by us learning what our physical survival depends upon. Once you assure that, can you imagine that a great deal of underlying baseline anxiety is gone?
Sure.
So
Sure. Yeah.
I think that is so important, because we are talking about actually some really advanced stuff here with those beautiful techniques that you mentioned. But actually, let's not forget the basics. Get the basics right, and then add those more advanced techniques. And I think that is so important. So it's not just a game of learning a new skill set. It is a game of learning new rules for living. And I think
Yeah.
once you put that in, and we have not even started on exercise, we have not even started on other things.
Well, yeah. I think about this all the time is everyone knows they should exercise, eat well, right? Everyone knows that, like knows that up here. But why don't we do that? The self-sabotage. Why? Why do people overeat? Why do we not exercise, right? So now we're going back to that same root of anxiety, right? Underneath all of it is what we're trying to do is we're trying to feel good. Everyone is trying to feel good or avoid not feeling good, right? So if we're self-sabotaging, there is an uncomfortable emotion. There's an uncomfortable feeling. There's uncomfortable insecurity or whatever that's coming up or making us feel we're not worthy, we're not okay, we're not loved, whatever it is, so that we self-sabotage. We repeat patterns that are created by these internal emotions, right? So I actually believe that if you feel these emotions, if you fully feel, and all this stuff that's suppressed and caged inside of you, there's intelligence in that. When you feel that, you gain clarity of why this is happening, why you're self-sabotaging, why you're feeling anxiety. And you can start, with that clarity, you make better choices and it changes your behavior. So instead of listening to people or like reading books, or like there's nothing wrong with this, by the way. Reading books on why, healthy habits and all that stuff, and then you don't go to the gym because you retract back to your pattern. We all do this. We all mentally try to break habits and break subconscious patterns mentally.
Yeah.
But that's the secret, is to feel the feeling that's suppressed, because in that there's intelligence that informs us, gives us clarity of why we've been doing it. So then we make better choices naturally. So I think the ultimate root is ultimately the feeling. So if someone's sitting there and like, yeah, I know I need to eat better, I know I need to sleep better, but I'm still going to bed at 3 a.m, but I can't break that pattern. Why are we going to bed at 3 a.m? It's because we don't feel safe. We feel like there's a threat. We feel like we have to stay up and be productive or do something, right? There's reasons why we're doing this. So the only solution in my eyes is to fully feel that feeling. That's at the root of all of that. And then you will start making better choices.
Very nicely said. Very nicely said, because it's not just this causes that, so therefore I need to work on that. No, there is often a relationship that's going back and forth. And ultimately, it's like a big spider web where you can start at any one place and things will start moving all over. And very soon, I mean, you need to start. You need to start somewhere. And
Yeah.
you're quite right by actually feeling the emotion. I think that is such a powerful step. I think the next step thereafter, you should congratulate yourself for actually
Yeah.
achieving that, for actually having that moment of clarity, however painful it was. So that's step two. And then maybe you can say, wow, okay, that was not pretty. Let me have a glass of water. So now you're hydrating. So that's already 3 wins. If we start actually looking at life in a way of little wins and of low-hanging fruit, where we can make very quickly get some gains, get some traction. That is the beautiful way of recovery. And recovery is typically used with addiction, but the word. But having said that, also recovery from maybe not such a great life, not such a great dealing with your own emotions, from a state in which you have been. And that's where
Yeah.
you come in, because ultimately these are all beautiful insights, but to actually the journey that it took for you to develop all these insights would have been many, many years. And they came with various traumas, with various challenges, with various everything. So instead of people out there trying to reinvent the wheel, trying to get it all, to create it all in their own mind, well, would it not make more sense that you actually surround yourself with people who are further down the path than
Yeah.
you are, guys? So, and I guess that's where you come in, John, because you're helping people, you're out there to be by their side and to guide them with regards to their own development, with regards to their own growth. So if people want to get in touch with you, where can they go? Where can they find you?
Yeah. I have a free guide for everyone on my website on how to overcome anxiety, like the root cause. We go deeper into that for good. You can go to releasepanic.com/free to download that guide and to get on my email list. I'm active on Instagram with more in-depth discussion like this at Memory John G. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions too, because there's a process to this. But I work with people who suffer from panic, chronic anxiety, and helping them with a 3-step process, a really simple 3-step process of fully regulating their nervous system, right? Because if you have anxiety, you're not regulated. You're very tense, and that's holding in all these trapped energies. So we release the deep tension. We also learn the unhooking method, which I shared most of it with you, of relaxing, feeling, and getting more connected to that sensation that we've dissociated with our whole lives, so it can release. And then the third part is catalyst integration, which is everyone wants to know, how do I take these boulders of the past and resolve them, right? So when we get to that stage, when people are ready, right, we've stepped into the pool and got deeper, we can start handling these bigger voltage events, right, depending on when you're ready, and learning how to release those things without having someone, drill you into your past with questions. Because the truth is, you can do all of this on your own, with developing safety and intimacy, dipping into the pool. And I just guide people through that, how they can do that without the mentation and the questioning approach.
Beautiful. Wow. And guys, look down there into the description of the YouTube video and of the podcast, because we have got all of the links to John Graham down there. John, you're an amazing man. You put a lot of thoughts in my mind. You made me feel, you made me think, you made me reflect, and for that I'm very, very grateful. This was an amazing hour. And guys, if you feel the same, leave a comment down there and press the like and subscribe button, because the more you can do that, the more the algorithms think, oh yeah, that's actually a really cool show, and we'll offer it up to many more people on YouTube and as a podcast. So yes, let's all work together on ourselves. I strongly, strongly feel that by us becoming better human beings, we become better leaders, better husbands, better fathers, daughters, regardless of any gender or sexual orientation. We will be better humans, and therefore I think we can make this world a better place. John, thank you so much for being out there, being authentic, being showing some of your own vulnerability. Man, it's one thing to do amazing feats on in front of 400 million people. It's another thing of actually being honest to yourself and showing that honesty out to just a few hundred or thousand people here on my show. That takes balls. And I'm not sure what is more challenging. Kudos to you for doing both. Thank you so much for being a wonderful, wonderful guest on my show.
Thank you, Stephan. You have a medium and a talent for bringing it forth out of me, and the ripple effect of the show is immense.
Okay. Oh,
One
beautiful.
person off, yeah, it's amazing. So keep doing what you're doing. I'd be happy to come back and help anytime too.
Oh, brilliant. I might just take you up on that because this was a bloody good interview. And you guys out there, look after yourself and live with passion. Bye.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn